Now, for more on this story, we're joined via our Pretoria studios by NPA Acting Director, Advocate George Baloyi. Advocate, thanks very much for your time on the rundown this morning. I mean, just on the face of it, there was so much evidence that was presented during those arbitration hearings chaired by Justice Moseneke. How is it now that there is no evidence that the NPA can base arrests on or prosecutions on?
Well, let me point out in the beginning that we appointed a team of 4 very senior advocates, and they have looked carefully at all the available evidence. And here we must be very clear that we require evidence that can lead to a conviction, and such evidence must firstly, be relevant, and secondly, such evidence must be such that, when the court looks at it, it will arrive at a conviction of guilt. Now, we have applied our minds very carefully to this matter, and after careful consideration of all the evidence, as I mentioned, the evidence must meet 2 criteria. It must be admissible, firstly, and secondly, it must be relevant. And after carefully considering the evidence, we feel that the magnitude of this case is such that we would not want to go into a prosecution at this stage, but rather to order that an inquest be held.
I mean, isn't it in some way premature for the NPA to already say, even before the inquest has been held, that no government officials will be implicated? I mean, is it not premature given that you don't know what will emerge? You don't know exactly what will emerge from the inquest.
Well, we never said that no government official is implicated. All that we're saying is that, we want to approach this matter very carefully, and we, at this stage, think that the matter should rather be referred to an inquest, so that we, after the inquest has been finalized, we can then apply our minds again to the matter to determine if the evidence is such that a conviction might ensue. So, this is a very careful step that we are embarking upon. We want to make sure that, when we go to court, we have all our ducks in a row. We are sure that the evidence that we have is admissible and relevant, and that it is likely to lead to a conviction.
So you're saying the NPA did not say it will not be prosecuting government officials. That may well still be a possibility. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The decision that we took at this stage is merely, an interim one, if one can put it that way. We will still, after all the evidence has been led at the inquest, we will again apply our mind to the facts and then finally decide as to whether to institute a prosecution or not.
So as you know, I mean, you would have watched the arbitration hearings, and they were harrowing. There was horrific evidence of how the loved ones, the most vulnerable in society, died, some of them with cardboard in their stomachs because they had nothing to eat. When will the NPA be able to provide closure for the family members of those victims of the Life Isidimeni tragedy? Are you able to say at this stage how long this road ahead is?
Well, firstly, let me just explain what the purpose of an inquest is. An inquest is held where there was an unnatural death, and it's held in terms of the Inquest Act 58 of 1959, and The sole purpose of an inquest is to determine the circumstances under which an unnatural death occurred. And this is part of, also helping the family to find closure, because the families will be able to hear firsthand as to the circumstances that led to the death of their loved one. And what is important is that the families are entitled to representation, including legal representation, and they are also entitled to ask questions to the witnesses who will be testifying at the inquest proceedings. So the family will be given a voice, and they'll be able to participate in the proceedings. And as I indicated earlier on, once the proceedings are concluded, we will then take a final decision. As to the time frames, that will depend how soon a judge can be appointed. And I must point out that to demonstrate how serious we view this matter, usually an inquest will be referred to a lower court. But in this instance, we referred the inquest, to the High Court to be presided over by a judge. And once all those logistical arrangements have been put in train, we will then set about to begin with the inquest proceedings. We could be looking to, at a period, anything between 4 to 6 weeks. What is important to mention is that the judge might want, to be assisted by an assessor or assessors, and perhaps given the special circumstances of this matter, perhaps the judge might want to be assisted by a medical assessor, or even perhaps a person who's skilled in the law.